Wishing everyone gathered here a very pleasant morning and a fruitful day ahead. I, Lakshita,
And I, Ashutosh.
are your hosts for today.
Being mindful of your surroundings is of utmost importance if we are to do anything worthwhile or meaningful with our lives. Let us all begin the day with a mindfulness prayer.
Everyone is please requested to close their eyes. Breathe in, breathe out. As my in breath goes deep, my out breath goes slow. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I feel at ease. Breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I release. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. Breathe in, breathe out. Now rub your palms together for a few seconds and place them on the eyes. Feel the warmth of your hands and gently open your eyes. Thank you.
The Indian Youth Nuclear Society, abbreviated as IYNS, is a non-profit organization based in India. The main objective of this organization is to spread awareness about the benefits of nuclear technologies among the general public and encourage Indian youth to learn and contribute to the Indian nuclear program. This organization is committed to ensuring that the information about the benefits of nuclear technology should reach each one of us. However, with nuclear energy being a part of the solution to fight climate change, this organization has evolved as the platform to discuss renewable energy sources as well.
Developed and sustainable living is everyone's right. Clean environment, healthy life, and basic amenities are a few things each one of us are striving for. In order to achieve this for all humans of this planet, the United Nations came up with 17 such goals that by achieving them, we could make every life better and make this planet sustainable. All these goals are interconnected and have overlaps. One of them is quality education. This boot camp will focus on delivering the quality education in a modern and innovative manner.
EBC'23 will be addressing the three SDGs, Goal 9, Innovation, Goal 11, Sustainable Cities, and Goal 13, Climate Action. The Indian Youth Nuclear Society and Shiv Nadar School is collaboratively organizing the flagship Educational Bootcamp 2023. The month-long, fun-filled and scientific awareness educational bootcamp titled as Sustainability, Our Responsibility and Our Legacy commenced on March 17, 2023 and will conclude with 2 days interactive sessions during April 20 to April 21, 2023.
Let us begin the day with music that adds grace to every moment. Music that transports us to higher realms and brightens the day with happiness and joy. Please welcome the school choir as they mesmerize us with soulful chants in perfect harmony.
That was an amazing performance. Now, one of the most enduring injustices is that women make up only 28% of the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and math, and men vastly outnumber women majoring in most STEM fields in college. The gender gaps are particularly high in some of the fastest growing and highest paid jobs of the future, like computer science and engineering.
Too many girls and women are held back by biases, social norms, and expectations, influencing the quality of education they receive and the subjects they study. It is crucial that society stop steering girls away from math and science and make these fields more welcoming for women.
With this intention in our collective psyche, on behalf of Shiv Nadar School Faridabad campus and our Director Principal, Mrs. Anju Wal, we commence with today's interactive session on women in STEM gender inequalities.
Our Director Principal, Ms. Anju Wal, is unwell. Please allow me to read out a message from her. I miss meeting the scientists and the stalwarts in their field, and of course, Dr. Roop Manjari Ghosh herself. I am honored they are in our campus and hope they will leave their lasting impact and influence on the children, parents, and teachers. I wish you all an enriching day ahead. Our first panelist is Dr. Nitender Singh, Nuclear Safety Engineer at ITER Organization, France. Responsible for nuclear safety and accident analysis for Test Banking Module, abbreviated as TBM, of International Thermonuclear Energy Reactor. Dr. Singh is enthusiastic, self-motivated, and passionate about the work. At the same time, he is also a socialist and has excellent capabilities of working with team as well as leading it. May I request our head of middle and senior school, Mr. Matthew Evulich, to present a token of appreciation to our keynote speaker, Dr. Nitender Singh.
Thank you. Our second panelist of the day is Ms. Shira Tabashnikov, a seasoned and highly skilled professional with a good dose of self-awareness and humor. She brings strategic insights, creativity, and inspirational leadership in communications for international organizations committed to positive change for the planet. Currently, Mr. Bashnikov is Deputy Head of Communications at ITER, an intergovernmental organization demonstrating the scientific and technological feasibility of fusion energy for peaceful purposes. Ma'am, we welcome you to Shiv Nadar School, Faridabad. May I request Anju Soni, ma'am, Principal Shiv Nadar School, Noida, to confer a token of appreciation to Mr. Bashnikov. Thank you so much. Our third panelist is Dr. Roop Manjari Ghosh, the former Vice Chancellor of Shiv Nadar University, Uttar Pradesh, India. She is also the former Director of School of Natural Sciences and Dean of Research and Graduate Studies at Shiv Nadar University, and a Professor of Physics and former Dean at the School of Physical Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Her areas of interest include experimental and theoretical quantum optics, laser physics, nonlinear optics, quantum information, quantum measurement, and magneto-optics. May I request our STEAM coordinator, Ms. Vinita Sharath, to present Dr. Roop Manjari Ghosh with a token of our warmth towards her.
Dear audience, our fourth panelist is Ms. Neeti Rao, a part of clinical operations and project management at CBCC Global Research. A strong team player with the ability to work independently, Ms. Rao is self motivated and focused towards organizational and personal goals. We welcome you, ma'am. May I request our Vice Principal International Curriculum, Ms. Shilpa Arvind Khadse, to offer Ms. Rao a memento from SNS Faridabad.
From the Shiv Nadar School fraternity, please welcome Ms. Shalini Chablani, a pediatric occupational therapist and a passionate environmentalist and conservationist. She is a believer of permaculture philosophy and has taken up various short duration courses on permaculture, urban gardening, healing through herbs, and self healing through Ayurveda, to name a few. She recently represented HCL in the Unleash conference, which is an international innovation lab at Mysore as an SDG facilitator. It gives me great pleasure to invite the senior school deputy head, Ms. Chinar Banga, to offer a token of goodwill to Ms. Shalini.
The student moderators from Shiv Nadar School Faridabad campus are Suhana Gupta and Samya Arora, seasoned speakers in their own right each.
We also acknowledge the presence of Samyak Gantayat, Six Sigma Green Belt certified engineer with masters in nuclear science and technology and an abiding passion for simulations and nuclear engineering. Our esteemed guest, Mr. Ganesh, a postgraduate engineer and currently working as a scientific officer in DARC. His main areas of work are related to design and development of first-of-a-kind equipment, which find applications in the domains of nuclear and science and solar energy. May I request our diploma program coordinator, Ms. Garima Sharma, to welcome them with a token of our appreciation.
It is our pleasure to have with us here Mr. Jehan Nicholson, PhD in nuclear physics from CAA Kadash and University Grenoble Alps. And with her we have Ms. Ankita Singh, training manager at IIT Bombay, spoken tutorial, NMEICT, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. May I request Head of the Science Department of Shiv Nadar School, Faridabad, Ms. Nidhi Chaturvedi, to extend a warm welcome to our guest with a token of our appreciation.
From Shiv Nadar Educational Institutions, we also welcome the presence of Mrs. Anju Soni, Principal Shiv Nadar School, Noida, our Head of Middle and Senior School, Mr. Matthew Ivulich, and Ms. Vinita Sharath, Coordinator of STEAM Shiv Nadar Schools. We thank you all for your gracious presence and promise everyone gathered here an enriching day ahead.
Dear audience, the school choir is here to transport us into the realm of music as they lend grace with their pitch and cadence. Music to create serenity, tranquility, and add charm to the occasion.
कितने किलो होना है सर?
Days that we breathe out loud until I'm breaking. Each every word in the night. I know I'm changing. I know I'm changing. It is only
And now, please welcome on stage Anju Soni ma'am, Principal Shiv Nadar School, Noida, to address the gathering and set the tone of the day. Ma'am, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, my dear students, for such lovely performances and such kind words that you had for all of us. And I would like to thank Mrs. Val. Though we are missing her presence and we heard her message, but thank you to her for making this possible for all of us. We know that Vinita ma'am has been working very closely with the IYNS and the other scientists to bring this to us. And as we move into the VUCA world today, I think it's very important for us to remember that in this world, neither climate change nor the next step to technology, and especially the human behavior, can be predicted. So it is very important for us to orient ourselves towards accepting this very different world, which needs a very different version of us and a very different young adults. The scientific mindset allows us to have vision, understanding, and clarity. And the arts embolden us to approach the unknown with agility and adaptability. And that is what makes STEAM special. Because it is able to blend science, technology, and mathematics with the arts to put a heart back into learning. It is important, dear children, for you to learn, to ask the right questions, and to constantly push at the horizons of the known world, while at the same time approaching learning with kindness and empathy, combining epistemics with ethics and aesthetics. A bit of a tongue twister, but I got it right. To aim for a world which is more humane and also which is more beautiful. Knowledge is not absolute, and gender is no longer a binary, but it's a spectrum. And therefore, gender concerns are human concerns, and not just limited to a certain percentage of the population. The path to a happier world lies through social justice, inclusion, diversity, equity, and sustainability, which are critical not just to the happiness of our species, but to the very survival of our species and the future generations to come. And of course, to the existence of the planet itself. Learning conclaves like these are so important for all of us to organize, attend, and listen and deliberate on. We are grateful to have partners such as the Indian Youth Nuclear Society, which believes in the power of adventure and the promotion of international understanding by bringing all of us together, along with organizations like ITER, which are making a real-life difference towards co-creating the future we would want to have. And on behalf of Mrs. Anjuwai, Director Principal Faridabad, and the senior leadership, it is my honor to extend a heartiest welcome to Ms. Shira, Head Science International Communications at ITER France, Dr. Nitendra, President IYNS, and Safety Engineer at ITER, Dr. Shamyak and Dr. Ganesh from BARC, Dr. Ankita from IIT Mumbai, Dr. Zihan from Advanced Tech Control Mumbai, Dr. Somaditya Bose, who is a parent at Faridabad and a panelist, Ms. Niti Rao, Project Manager at CBCC Global Research, Ms. Shalini Chablani, a pediatric occupational therapist and faculty at Shiv Nadar School, Faridabad, and of course, who doesn't know Dr. Rupa Manjari Ghosh, former Vice Chancellor at Shiv Nadar University. And it would not be fair if I don't thank and express gratitude to our steam engine, our very own steam engine, Ms. Vinita Sharad, whose love and passion for science has rubbed on to many of us, and who works very closely, not just to bring this to us, but also with the IYNS as an educational consultant and providing opportunities for us time and again. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. And with this, I invite Mr. Matthew Ivelich, who is the head connected learning at Shiv Nadar School, while he looks after the middle years at Shiv Nadar School, Noida. May I request you, Matthew, to come and join me here and address the gathering. Thank you, everyone, and wishing you a fun-filled, engaging day ahead. Thank you. I should have guessed he's going to do that. He hates remaining static while talking.
That's right. This is not a classroom, so how can you stand still? Isn't it the best classroom? We are lucky here today. As I listened to that choir sing its song of impossible, that sometimes you have to fall to fly. That's the challenge you have. And what we're talking about today with the UN Sustainable Goals, and we're focusing on 3 of them, and gender, of course, with women in science is an important part. I hope every one of you realise on your shoulders is the responsibility of making those sustainable goals reality. That is your curriculum. It's not an exam. It's not doing chapters, rote learning. It's about what do you want your world to be tomorrow? What do you want to do in that world? Shiv Nadar is a very, very good platform for all of you to grow. And today, with our esteemed guests, and look how international they are, look how lucky all of you are. Do not waste 1 minute. Do not be distracted by someone sitting next to you. You're going to have the opportunity to listen to real world people who are trying to make those sustainable goals a reality. That's not easy because you've got politics in our world today trying to only help their own ego, whereas you have a world to live in for decades forward. So I encourage you today to look at your learning in the real world, to look at our esteemed guests as something you can learn from, and maybe you'll be able to live out some of these sustainable goals for your future, for your current family's future, and for your future family. These are the things that have to go through your mind, not I've got an assignment next week, I've got an exam to worry about at the end of the year. You need to think about how you live your life. What are the things we have to do? And as I said, you've got the best classroom in the world. You've got experts. You don't get this. A lot of children do not get what you're having today. So for those people here today, for those people listening on YouTube through our live streaming, learn, but also be invigorated. Take their passion, these experts, work out what you can do to make these goals, be it innovation, be it sustainability, even looking at all you girls who think science is a passion that you can lead your life with. And when you look at people like Miss Vinita and her team, there's an example that every one of you girls can follow. But for all you boys, don't let the girls take over. You've got to also have that same energy. So together, we can make our world that better place. So I wish you all good luck, but I also hope you take every minute of today and tomorrow seriously. You learn, and it leads you to a better life for you, your family, and your future family. God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your words and thoughts are always an inspiration. Let us all put our hands together to welcome on stage the keynote speaker for the panel discussion, Dr. Nitendra Singh. Sir, we would be honored to have you share your thoughts with our audience.
The best part today is that I need not to ask, am I audible to you? After a long time. I won't take much of your time. The only thing I really want to mention is about the journey of few steps from being there to here. It took me almost a decade to complete that, and this is the result for it. We started Indian Youth Nuclear Society in 2014 with a vision of doing something like this in different areas. And as soon we started, things keep on happening, and we found our ways, like you were searching your ways through school. And it was an interesting time because we had our first boot camp in 2015 with almost 300 students in Pune. We were in a gathering like this. After some time, 2020, the famous year happened, but we got an opportunity with the people we have. We found a problem, we solved it, and we started our online boot camp. It was first online boot camp, and it was first with Shiv Nadar. So, and since then we started, this is the third season, and we are doing in hybrid mode today, which is again the first. So I have noted down the first three milestone of education boot camp. The main idea of this boot camp mainly was to share the knowledge. Everyone is sharing, your teachers are sharing with you, your parents do share it with you. So we thought, why not? Whatever we can, we should. And I don't know who said this, but I found it interesting. Knowledge shared equal to knowledge squared. So, perfect. We thought, let's follow it up. During this journey, when we started, we were focusing mainly on one of the major issues, which is the energy. Energy security in our country is one of the biggest reason for, not being able to what we see in the outside world. Many of these developed nations have energy security, a full flourishing energy. They can do whatever they feel like, but we are being always stuck with this demand. Even for the coffee this morning, if you want, you need to wait for DJ. So something we started with, this was the major motivation for us. And as we went on, things kept on adding. And the big picture came when United Nations introduced the Sustainable Development Goals. And as Matthew has rightly mentioned, this is not something big concept or big science or something really complicated we are talking about here. It is a big role which is being played by these goals in each one of lives, using the easy concepts which you are actually studying in your schools today. And you have already read about it, you are going to learn about it during these 2 days, but my favorite one is goal number 17, the collaboration and cooperation. And that's what we are doing for long. And I would like to highlight today that with Shiv Nadar Foundation, it's been 3 years. We started with just one boot camp, followed by many different events, and now we are collaborating on international internships, international workshops, and also dedicated advanced science tech makers kind of a lab we are promoting with Shiv Nadar Foundation. So I'm quite happy to share that as well. And one really nice thing I wanted to address today is this. Why we chose 9, 11, and 13 goal to focus on during this bootcamp was that major problems are being directly or indirectly connected to these three. When I say problems, remember solutions are always associated with it. So we have major global issues which are connected to these goals, and we can find local solutions using our own innovative and creative mind. What is needed basically is the understanding of global issues and find a dedicated innovative solution using your local knowledge, local resources to do that. And that's what we will try to follow. And we never want to miss half of our workforce, which is women. So that's why I feel the quality education and women equality or gender equality are both go hand in hand. That's why we always keep it in any of our activities. So with that, I really want you to enjoy the journey. Few steps maybe looks few steps, but journey may become different. So thank you, and let's make our planet our home again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure that everyone gathered here will definitely reflect upon your words.
To commence with the panel discussion on the theme Women in STEM, Gender Inequalities, we request Dr. Singh to please come back on stage. We also invite all of the panelists to please come on stage and be seated. Our other panelists include Ms. Sheera, Ms. Ghosh, Ms. Rao, Ms. Chablani, and Ms. Ankita Singh. So, let's put on our thinking hats and gear up to learn, listen, and implement.
We would like to express our immense gratitude towards our panelists here today. It is indeed an astounding feeling to see all of us gathered here.
To start with our panel discussion, we are proud to share with you that Nitendra Sir is a founding member of a global community, Women in Fusion. This intends to promote leadership and encourage recognition of women's contribution to fusion. Nitendra Sir, what inspired you to find this community?
Hello. Yeah. I'll start with the idea. Most of the time it is being a discussion that what inspired me to found a women empowering platform. First of all, it's not women, men, and things like that. It's the idea that we all are together and we all are equal. So we should have the same opportunity and same direction, same opportunity, same resources. And wherever I felt like, even especially in STEM or STEAM, or I say I STEAM, the initiation is less
So when the initiation is less, by the time you reach on top, the quantity is reducing. It's not possible to increase. So I thought we need to have some sort of platform where at least they can raise their issues, they can work it out together, and then maybe you find the solution. So I first started with the Women in Nuclear in India Facebook page long back, and then eventually the organization in 2020, and then eventually got an opportunity with many international organizations to be the part of this founding team of Women in Fusion. So I would not say I did something. I was lucky enough to be part of this journey, as I say again. Thank you.
So that is truly inspiring. Ms. Sheera, your work in public relations has been commendable. What part do you think ITER plays in promoting diversity and gender equality in STEM fields?
Thank you for that question. You asked, just so I'm sure I understand, you asked what part does ITER play in gender equality? And
Yes, ma'am. Gender equality and diversity in STEM
Diversity.
fields.
Okay. Well, I wonder, does everyone know what ITER is? Can you raise your hand if you know what ITER does? Okay. Well, do you mind if I take just a moment to explain it? Okay. So ITER is an international project. We're in the south of France, and we work with hundreds of different nationalities. We have members from all over the world, including India, Japan, China, Russia, the United States, Europe, and Korea. So it's 80% of the world's GDP has come together to build a star on Earth. That's a metaphor to simplify something that's very complex. We're trying to make a machine called a tokamak that will recreate the power of the sun and the stars. So that's fusion. You know all about it. So fusion is different than fission. We're trying to fuse hydrogen isotopes together that are both positive. They don't want to come together, because you probably learned that two positive forces generally don't. But in the sun, they come together because of the enormous heat, the density of the number of the hydrogen isotopes, and the gravitational force that pushes them together. So those three things we're trying to make happen in this machine called a tokamak. That's a Russian word for kind of a donut-shaped machine. It sounds kind of easy, doesn't it? But it's super hot on the sun, and we're actually, because we're on Earth, we have to make it 10 times hotter than in the core of the sun. So you probably know how hot the sun is, right? So 15 million at the core, 15 million degrees Celsius. So we have to make it 150 million degrees inside this machine. That's a lot. And we have to recreate some of the gravitational forces using enormous magnets. And then we have to cool it off and make sure that it's not too safe, so that it's safe and doesn't get overheated. So we created the biggest refrigerator in the world that goes around it. And that was actually built by India. And we do this together with people all over the world because this is a new field. It's a relatively new field. It's newer than some of the other scientific areas. And we all want to learn together all over the world so that as we learn, every country can have that knowledge and build their own machines so that we're not dependent on other countries for the resources. And this is also something we hope will lead to a more peaceful planet. Okay? So that's a kind of a short explanation of what we're doing at ITER. And it's still a couple of years away. We're not there yet. It's what we call a folk project. So that's FOAK, and that means first of a kind. And whenever we have a problem, we say, oh, it's a folk problem. It's a first of a kind problem. And that's science, isn't it? You do something for the first time and you learn and you make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. So what we're doing for diversity is, this is such a unique project because we're actually constructing something tangible that you can see. It's a construction project. I work on a construction project. You know, I have cranes and you hear the sounds of building, and we're doing this with people from all over the world. So the diversity is incredible, and we need even more diversity. Because we're in France, it's not always easy to get people from Japan or China or India to come live there and work there. But we work and we have to understand different cultural ways of working, like how do you make decisions? That sounds simple as well, but in countries where there's a lot of hierarchy, it's different than countries where there's a flatter hierarchical. So we have to have procedures for that. And gender diversity is lacking. We have even less than the averages that you mentioned here today. That was 28%. At ITER, we have 18% women, and only 8% women are in managerial positions or in higher level positions. So not working in the administration, but really as higher level managers. So that's not enough, because this is so hard. We need everyone on board. And that's part of the reason that we started Women in Fusion, so that we can start now to create networks for women, to have a mentoring program, to share best practice, to promote women who are already contributing to fusion, so we can have role models, and to promote potential jobs, and to offer that type of support to each other. So I think that's, in short, maybe I talked too long, but I wanted to make sure people knew what fusion was. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think what you said really translates and reflects into the next question that we have. So research has shown that the overall percentage of female graduates with core STEM degrees is steadily growing. However, it's just 26%. Ms. Ghosh, would you like to comment on it?
Thank you. First of all, I'm really happy that we're talking about it. Let me, I'll answer your question shortly, but let me start with an understanding of mine that I think is important to keep in mind. I come from the higher education domain, and as you know, if research is what defines all of us in higher education, it's what Matthew said, pushing the boundary, so creating new knowledge, then what is needed is not equality, it's equity. See, no two human beings are equal. We are not identical. And the first understanding I want to put forward to you is that because we are, this diversity is to be celebrated, you should celebrate the fact that you are unique. And this uniqueness of individuals is the strength in higher education and research. If all of us thought similarly, if all of us did the same thing, then there will be no churning of new knowledge. There will be no conflict of ideas, right? So the fact that we are different is really the core strength that needs to be preserved and cherished and celebrated. Having said that, so the point I'm making is that if you have read, it's quite old now, to 2016 November, there's a Harvard Business Review paper that talked about, the headline was, diverse teams are smarter. The case studies were mostly about businesses, but it applies to higher education institutions as well. So diverse teams are smarter. So if you want to stay competitive in this knowledge economy, you better celebrate diversity. Okay, so I think this is the understanding that we need to propagate now. These are not women's issues. These are issues for all right-thinking people. And I think we should not really club them as women in something, women in, I really don't like that. The statistics is miserable, like what we just heard. So I think we need to take some steps. So what you said is that steadily, because we have been talking about it, enrollment in STEM subjects is going up, but the devil lies in details. If you look at the Aisha data, AISHE, the government publishes every year, it's steadily going up. The gender ratio is improving. But if you look into elite institutions, so-called elite institutions, it's an appalling picture. This, take the ISC, IITs, the institutions of eminence, is pathetic. And I think this is something that we need to look into and figure it out. The quest should start early. I'm so glad that Shiv Nadar is doing this today. In all your minds, there has to be this removal of this bias, because we are all humans with different capabilities and uniqueness that needs to be celebrated. So be what you are. If goal number 5, the major thing for me is participation of everybody in decision making. You don't have to be like somebody else. You have to be yourself, and the full potential that you have, you need to actually have a system that would encourage that. It starts early. So we are seeing the effects, and more Shiv Nadar schools organize this kind of an event, the more we spread our ideas, maybe it would really have. So in summary, really there are 3 kinds of issues. One, I'll start with the simplest in some way, infrastructural. Okay, I mean, this even includes physical security for women, toilets, creche, and this and that. The second, maybe for people who have been in leadership positions, are more policy oriented. Are we implementing the right kind of code of conducts? Are we implementing the right kind of family leave? We don't in India, etc., etc. It's doable. Third, but it needs a lot of advocacy. The third is the most difficult one, and that's the social conditioning, right? Patriarchal mindsets, which tells you, have you heard of the imposter syndrome? Yeah, apparently that holds women back. It affects men as well. But so all of these things that come from social conditioning, I think we need to sort of attack it. All these 3 stages: infrastructure, policy, social conditioning, and the real understanding of diversity, the merit of it, is really the root, the key to solving this issue. And I think we should talk about it more and more, and not mimic. We don't want girls to be proto-boys, and each one should be celebrated for what they bring to the table. And I think it's happening. It would happen slowly, but we need to look at elite institutions to see what is going wrong in there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your answer, ma'am. I really liked how you emphasized on being unique and being different. Moving on to our next question, I'd like to state that women in STEM now make up to 46% of the total science professional workforce. So the statistics are increasing. Ms. Neeti, what steps can the STEM sector's businesses and organizations do to make the workplaces even more welcoming and supportive of women?
So I have been into this industry of clinical research since more than 10 years now. I have seen a drastic change, I would say. They have been more welcoming to women. I have seen women in data sciences, data management, and then there are writing activities, which women do much better than men. So I'm not talking about a comparison, how it was earlier, or between men or women. It's about being given opportunities, equal rights, and equal opportunity along with equal opportunity to grow, to speak, to put a word. So that's where, where the organization play an important role. Giving flexibility, which is, with the time and COVID, we've seen how flexible models work, like work from home. So all these kind of things, that will encourage more and more women to be a part of the organization. And yes, as Ms. Rituparna already told, that proper infrastructure, proper hygienic toilets, and also, a physical security and safety. So all these aspects all together can, help the organization as well as women. And as far as team is concerned, it's a field wherein there'll be no stoppages. So once you are in, you'll keep on growing and growing, and the organization will also keep on growing. So there's limitless options for you and all women and men all together. So you can choose what you want to do. You have to be unique and you can present that. I have been doing that since these many years, and I can see it's more interesting. And the day I keep learning and doing more new things, and I think everyone can do that. So that's what I feel, how we can join together and do it.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to ask a follow-up question to Ms. Ankita. So you've been a manager at IIT Bombay, if I'm not wrong. So I would like to ask what are your experiences on the statistic that you presented, that women now make up to a total of 46% of science professional workforce, and what has your experience been?
Okay, so what my experience says is, what I see is women are everywhere. Okay, so in a Sanskrit we say that yatra naryante pujyate ramate tanta devata. Okay, so whether women's are there, जहाँ पर औरत होती है वहीं उसका देवताओं का वास होता है. It has been said in the Hindi methodology. Okay. And if you see about the statistics, I see that the women are everywhere, okay, in the field of education, in the field of research, and even if you see, we all are sitting here also women, okay. And if we talk about, as ma'am said, that we have to break this myth that women also have to come forward and they have to take up the steps also, okay. We cannot just say that we are not doing this. So in education field, everywhere we see the women. So I'm seeing the women are growing, and we all have to unite and take the women to the next level, and we all are doing it also.
Thank you, ma'am. Nitendra sir, being a sole representative of the male community in the panel today, what challenges do you think men face in promoting gender equality?
The first is one you mentioned. You being male, what are you doing here? Promoting females. And this is something which I actually get quite a lot. In my workplace, in my friends and people who know me, the first question is, what are you doing in women fusion? And as I mentioned, the first point is, it is not male or female which is making a difference. The idea is, as Ghosh ma'am said, what is in you, your characteristic, your entire identity is based on what you are. If you are a creative person, if you are a scientific person, you should be judged by your competency, not by your look, not by your gender or whatever. So my idea is to, focus on that particular objective, particular goal. And that's what I follow. And in a very engineering college scenario, I can tell you, it is really difficult to tell a man a reality and make him understand that this is a reality. Unless there is a man who is saying. And there is a saying in Hindi that, a hammer or an axe, it cannot cut a tree unless you have a handle made up of the wood. So I feel like the person who already knows the system, the patriarchal ideology you have, being in a way part of this system, it is my duty, responsibility to actually address it, to bring it up, bring it on the discussion internally through that. So it is one of the easiest way, I feel, from my side, that I can turn more people to follow this ideology of competency, not by looks or anything. And that's also all the problem of diversity, your equity, because you are focusing on the characteristics. So that's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We now move to Shalini, ma'am. Ma'am, we've had multiple opportunities to witness your enthusiasm towards environment and sustainability. Do you think that environmental issues disproportionately affect women and girls? And how can these disparities be addressed?
I wouldn't say that it disproportionately affects. I think our environment is very closely linked to our health. And I'm sure you all have heard, Save Soil campaign that happened recently, and it's been ongoing, because the health of the individual is very closely related to the health of the soil. And being an occupational therapist, being in the field of health, we have seen how the developmental disabilities that we see in children are increasing. And as a woman, there's more nurturing, compassion, abilities that we have. And we have a very important role because we are protectors and we are nurturers of the future generation that is going to come. So I do feel that, if as a woman, we are not aware of the environmental consequences that are happening, where is your food coming from? What are you feeding your child? Where is the milk coming from? And I urge all the kids, all the students here, to be aware of your cities. We have one of the goals as sustainable cities. Are you aware what is the water source that you are having the water from? What is the water filtration that is happening from? So we are aware of a lot of the international issues, but are we aware of where is the milk coming from? What is a farmer doing? Because if we do have a child with difficulties, it directly affects the family. And the main nurturer of the family is woman. And the expectation is more on the woman. If the child is not doing well, it's probably the mother is not taking care of the child well. Most of the PTMs who attends, most of the time it's mothers. I'm not saying that fathers are not involved, but it's the mother. So I feel that it directly affects women in a lot of ways because of the nurturing abilities that they have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So my next question would be to Ms. Ghosh. What suggestions do you have for parents to bridge this gender gap, and how can parents promote gender equity?
Okay. I think the idea is to remove biases. And since we are talking about STEM, there is a need to go back and, I'm a physicist, but so are these people. So we need to sort of glorify STEM again. I don't know whether you know who Peter Thiel is. I mean, it's not, in every aspect may not be such a glorious life, but he once said years back, we wanted flying cars and instead we got 140 characters. 140 characters related to the length of a Twitter at that time. So what is the point I'm making? Point I'm making is that, like Anju ma'am said at the beginning, and now we're talking about sustainability, you need hardcore basic science people to solve the problems the world is facing. Be it climate change or COVID, you saw all of these things, or flying cars, space travel, or travel in this world, energy cost to be minimized, food, hunger is not gone yet. All of these things, you can't eat AI. AI is a good multiplier if you have physical solutions. If physical solutions is zero, zero multiplied by AI is zero. So we need our most intelligent people, students, to still look up to STEM as a glorious choice. I'm not saying that you don't need, but you need all. You should not be spending all your time thinking of how to improve the algorithm of a social media platform. It's needed, but everybody should not be doing that. Otherwise, there will be nothing to eat, no Medicare, no space travel, etc., etc. So I can go on and on. This is one of my favorite subjects. But the point is that if parents are aware of this, and the conditioning is prevented and given these choices of, so you also need role models. Let me have a physics talk next time. Talk about what is, the quantum technology announcement came by the cabinet yesterday. That's exactly my subject. What exactly are we planning to do? How would the world become any, easier probably for humankind, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of emphasis to be given to hardcore basic science, education and research. And it's good fun, let me assure you. And Vinita ma'am is an example of that, right? It's good fun to do science the way we have been doing. So I think if parents don't put restrictions, you also have to look at physical security. A colleague of mine way back in JNU had told me, my daughter really adores you. She wants to be like you. But looking at you, I'm worried because you stay up all night to do your experiments. And I'm worried about her security when she grows up. So of course, these are real things. So I'm not saying that, you start defying everything into it, but these are issues to be handled by other people, not you. You should be free of these biases. Let us do our job seriously, whoever is entrusted in doing whatever. If parents don't put restrictions on children like this, then I think the rest would just automatically happen. But I think young students should understand why the world needs basic sciences more than ever. We came out of the COVID phase because of remarkable collaboration, and speed is of essence. You can't wait for 20 years for one discovery to happen. It needs, really, you should be prepared, and in 2 months' time, you should be able to give a discovery that the world is waiting for. What are the issues the world is waiting for? I have already named 3 things, but you can think of it. It's not a social media algorithm. Sorry for coming harsh on that, but it's just an example. You don't take it too harsh. So I think that's really is the issue. And at home, at school, this should be the atmosphere. Look at role models who are actually doing the kind of work that you'd be proud of doing yourself. Aspire to do that. And then the world would be what we have been dreaming about. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. This brings us to our next question to Ms. Rao, who is a proud parent of Shiv Nadar School, Faridabad. Ma'am, as a parent, do you agree with Ms. Ghosh? And what are some of the practices you follow as a parent to promote gender equality?
So this is the right question, I would say, to ask a parent. So as Ms. Ghosh rightly said, it starts from the school time or maybe before that. There have been a lot of STEAM kind of games which are available. Why a boy has to be given a car only and not a girl given a car? Obviously, when you give a car to a girl, she'll also know how to work on it, how to fix it. So that's where it starts from. So, stereotyping there between a male and a female, that should stop. That's where, and then, giving experiential exposure in school, like doing different experiments in science. So that's how kids will be encouraged and, they can do things and wonders in science. And science is such a field that it starts from your kitchen as well. You can start, doing mixing, and you can see the litmus test, for example, at home, right? With using different herbs and chemicals and all those things. So that's how I would say, inculcating all these things within home, starting from home, that's the best what one can do. And if, yes, parents are not doing it, and children, if they are aware, okay, this can be done, they can educate their parents. So it's not that education starts just from parents. Kids can also, ultimately educate their parents and tell them, oh, this can be done. So that's what my thought is.
Thank you, ma'am. I think you talked about how growth goes both ways and how learning goes both ways. So my next question is to Ms. Sheera. What guidance do you have for young women who are interested in pursuing STEM careers?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking me that. Because I was thinking about STEM and what we're talking about today and remembering my own career development. And I studied literature in college, and in high school I loved reading and writing and storytelling. And so when I went to university, I started as pre-med, because my father's a doctor. I thought I want to be just like him. But when I got there, I just didn't feel comfortable. I was one of the few women in the class, and I just didn't last very long. And I thought, well, what do I really love doing? That's reading and writing. So I switched to literature. And to be honest, I felt a bit bad about it. Like I'd let down my parents, and I felt like, what am I going to do? People always ask me, what kind of career are you going to have with literature? And I didn't know. I really had no idea. All I knew was that I loved it. And I was having a great time. And then I ended up doing a master's in feminist literature. I still didn't know what kind of career I was going to have, but I was making some money. I was writing articles and doing translations and very focused on storytelling. And then I slowly got into communications because I realized there were a lot of technical people and businesses out there that didn't know how to talk about what they were doing. And then I started working with scientists, and I was just fascinated by their work, but they couldn't explain it to anyone very well. Not everyone, some are better than others, of course, but I noticed that this was like a gap, that you had scientists and research, and all they had was this abstract at the beginning of their peer-reviewed articles. And for normal people like me, lay people like me, it was difficult to understand what they were doing. And you need to understand and appreciate their work in order to, as a society, to decide to fund it and support it. So I found a kind of a niche between loving science and wanting to support it and storytelling, and the need to make science understood by more and more people. So I guess if you ask what my advice is, I just wanted to say, when I was in high school, most of the careers I see today did not exist. There's no way I could have sat in high school and said, I want to work in fusion, or I want to be even a science communicator. That wasn't a field yet. It is now. I probably would have thought, oh, I could do science communications. That would have been perfect for me, but that didn't exist. So I'd say, if I were, but I also tell my own children, I have 3, and they're all studying in university, I said, just do what you love. Follow your curiosity, follow your passion, and just let that guide you, and be committed and go into that as deeply as you can, because that will take you to a place that you can offer support and solutions for the future. Like, I don't think you need to force yourself to study something if it's really not something that you love. But I also want to say you start loving things once you start doing them longer and you get better and better at it. So you have to find that balance. But start with finding joy, because when you're happy with what you're doing, it just affects other people in a positive way as well. That's my advice.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, Samya and I can go on and on for hours with our questions, but I'm sure that that our fellow peers in the audience are just as intrigued as we are. With your permission, I would now like to open the floor for questions from the audience.
How can we make place to work at ITER?
You can study fusion. I would start there, or engineering, or even nuclear science. So it's some field that's related to energy. But first, take a look at our website. See if you see what all the different areas are that are involved in science. It's iter.org. Another thing we do is we have internships. So high school students can come spend 1, 2, or 3 weeks at ITER. And that's something that I think your school is looking at with us, and we'll be talking a bit about that. So I think that's a great way, is to come and see what we're doing. But having an education in plasma physics or in engineering are both very useful areas that we always need people with that type of background. We also have internships at college age. So high school, college, PhD, we have visiting researchers. So there are a lot of different ways you can work at ITER.
So yeah, hi, thank you. Thank you for such lovely thoughts that all the panelists shared with us. What intrigues me the most is, which has become a sort of an inspiration for me, of course, Vanita is at the back of that. But what is very inspiring for me to know today is, Shira, that you are from the literature and language background, because I am a language teacher myself. So to be able to see you where you are today, I think that's a great inspiration for all language and literature students. But my question is that, I don't know, is there a possibility to have a similar kind of a career path with students who are pursuing arts? Yeah, I'm sure anyone can take that question, but yeah.
I actually wanted to eagerly answer this. You have mentioned you are inspired by Shira because she pursued literature. We have our one colleague, Kristen. She is a doctorate in anthropology, and she is one of our best science communicators at ITER. And let me tell you frankly, if you put me and Kristen together, she will be really quick to answer any of your physics question or science question related to ITER. So there is no boundary, or I would say there is no boundary in any of that kind of multidisciplinary field. Especially now we call it energy. And as Shira mentioned earlier, these fields were not existing. In any multidisciplinary field, there is no boundary, first of all, arts, science. And frankly speaking, I will be happy to go back 500 years in the era of Da Vinci. He was not studying science, arts, or anything like this. He was just roaming around, learning everything. And eventually ended up becoming a painter, sculptor, a scientist, and thermal hydraulics guy, aerodynamics guy, you name, he was a biologist. So this demarcation we put as we grew or learned more about science or anything else, but eventually there is no boundary. And to give you an example, when I started, my entire family was pursuing science, you know. I was being peer pressured that science is the subject. I followed, but I loved it. I followed because I loved. And like every child's dream, I had to become an astronaut. Eventually, I ended up becoming a scientist, but I loved it. On the other hand, now I realize that I love arts equally. The problem is, I had no opportunity to do it together. So it's our perception, which is completely wrong, I would say, that if I'm pursuing arts, I cannot go in science, or if I have pursued science, I cannot go in arts. And I always say, for me, and in reality, science and arts both are the two sides of the same coin, nothing different. And I emphasize to say this, that a good scientist cannot be a good scientist unless he has a artistic thinking. And similarly, a good artist cannot be a good artist unless he has a scientific thinking. So, no boundary.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for
Can I just add
revalidating our belief.
We wanted to add some points. I just wanted to tell you a fun example of art and science that happened this past year. There's a fashion designer called from the house of Chloe. It's a brand Chloe. It's a big French brand. The woman who is the main designer came to visit ITER because she read about fusion in the Financial Times. And so I gave her a tour, and she was so fascinated that a whole line of clothing was inspired by fusion and by the tokamak and by the sun. And it was amazing because there were so many, we try so hard to get ITER in the media to raise awareness, but with her fashion show, we had so much media attention and to new channels, new audiences, like in Vogue and Elle and Women's Wear Daily and all kinds of new audiences, that we've gotten much more attention for each through this. So I think as the woman, the Gabriela Hearst, who's a designer, she said, the world's problems will be solved by artists and scientists. And I kind of agree with that. This curiosity and creative thinking is what we need.
I'll just add, it's a very, very interesting question. And I think what I've been harping on, and I think all of us are saying the same thing, that following your passion is the first thing that comes. So take away all the stereotype casting, conditioning on people that you have to do this, you have to do that. And I think there has been, the reason I talked about basic sciences was also because there's been a lot of bias against basic sciences. I've heard things like physics is a male subject, rubbish. That, you know, this is too hard, only few. I mean, we create these myths that physics is too hard. It's actually a lot of fun. So I think without any innovation, if you come, I'm going to give you a little bigger picture. We have a left brain and a right brain. The left brain is very analytical. And if AI is going to take over, coding takes care of only your left brain. The right brain is visual and intuitive. I don't know of any computer program taking over the right side of our brain. So that's you, Anju, actually, the right side of the brain. So I think to stay alive in this world, we need to have curriculum, the project-based curriculum, the kind of things that we are all propagating, is the one that makes use of this diversity. I talked about diversity. This is the main diversity. Combining the power of the left brain with the right brain. Very few people can do it. And we do not have Leonardo da Vinci's anymore. So we now work with, again, one thing that Nitin said, we work in collaborative groups. So each one is one piece of Leonardo da Vinci. And in that, communication is a very, you know, hardcore scientists are bad teachers sometimes because they simply don't have the art of communication. So these are realizations that we are facing now. And this is not in silos anymore. Generation of knowledge, solving problems for the humanity, and finding a purpose in life. These are not things can be done in silos. So when we work in groups, different trainings from different backgrounds come very, very handy. And we all are appreciating that. I prefer in my group not to have biases. So when you are trained in a particular subject, you come with some preconceived ideas of how things should be done. So often we actually put in elements who just question everything. They're not from the discipline. And actually it does wonders. So I think really it is STEAM, that A is for art and design, but should not be taken literally. It's actually for everything. The E, rather than engineering, I would probably change it to enterprise. I mean, this is the one education probably our students should be getting, some kind of enterprise education. The STEAM is the mantra, and I think that would surely see the success of the day.
Thank you so much. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation, and I'm sure the students are making the best of it and they're absorbing everything. And what strikes me is what you said about sciences having solutions to everything. And yes, sciences do have solutions to everything. But my question here is about when I was a kid, science was the most important. So if you're doing science, you're doing something amazing. If you're doing commerces, you're doing something lower than sciences. So, okay, you are not able to make there. And arts were the last in the preference. Of course, the trends are changing, minds are opening, but there is also a trend of moving so much towards looking at economy as more important than anything else. So where you stand right now, looking at the field of sciences, the amount of money that goes into sciences may not always be proportional to the economic outcome they might give. So does that affect the trend of what is happening in sciences? Does it affect adversely what should be the priorities in the scientific community, in the scientific institutions? That's my question.
Okay, that's again a very nice question. You know, engineers are supposed to be problem solvers. Something in Shiv Nadar University curriculum that we did 11 years back is to multidisciplinarity, exactly what Nitin was talking about. And I'll give you an example. When the slums in Delhi do not get water, it's not a failure of the hydrodynamic laws. The fact that Fifth Avenue, New York, you have water every time, has nothing to do with scientific laws or engineering being different. You need to understand the context. And that normally is not the domain of science or technology experts. If you do not understand the context of your problem, you cannot be the problem solver. So you have to understand the problem in a holistic way, like energy. But I'm giving you a day-to-day example. We understood that way back. If you have the best of IIT students, put them in the field, which I used to see from the Vice Chancellor's office in SNU, and tell them solve this problem of this field, they will not be able to. They would not even know the starting point. So Shiv Nadar University graduates were supposed to have that multidisciplinary education. When you build a bridge, not only should it be mechanically stable, it would know the economic impact and the environmental impact of that bridge. And that's what multidisciplinarity means. And it comes from all of that. So it's a long answer. I have many more points to add, but to summarize, what I want to say is that different people would choose different things. Policymakers should identify at the national and the global level what are the problems that you want to work in. And today is the way that you have to actually work in a team to address some of these issues. At the same time, we do believe in blue sky research. I'm a strong proponent of that. What it means is that not for immediate commercial or otherwise benefit, but something that has always proven to be, it's a gamble, but that gamble has always proven right. When laser was invented in 1960, everybody thought it was a very good fundamental tool. What was the use? By the time I went to the US to do my PhD, even a store had little laser diodes for scanning. So I think from a fundamental concept to an application, it used to take 20, 30 years. Now it doesn't take so long, but sometimes it does. So if you stop fundamental research, basic research today, I can assure you 15 years later, there will be no applied research left because the concepts come actually from there. So I think we need all kinds, and the national priorities, national and global priorities should be set. You saw the SDGs, and I think we all believe in them, and we need to apply local solutions to those kind of global issues. But I think we all need to do what we do best within certain constraint. If you're not in the Himalaya, you're part of a system, then you really have to follow the guidelines of the system. So I think that's the larger picture, policy issues, not politics or politicking, but policy issues. And I think some of us are involved in all of that. And this is what I think we should be doing. But for me, individuals are important in a system. They bring in the diverse element that I was talking about. So your crankiness is welcome, because otherwise, we'll lose the mission. So that's the real thought at this point for me. Thank you.
Quickly to add on 2 points. The one which I was mentioning. Thank you. So one point which I was mentioning, it's a two sides of the same coin. So if you go, this is more of a social engineering problem. Huh? It is not any one particular guideline or policy which define that science is better, arts is not, and commerce is nowhere. It's we ourselves define ourselves. So this is one. Secondly, economics is the real problem if you go in the history. All those wars, all those whatever research, bad or good, happened were mainly to grab that economic portion. So, as Ghosh ma'am is mentioning, this is the time that instead of thinking of particularly on yourself in grabbing that economic reform for yourself, it is the time to use all those tools for as one planet, we are having so many problems to solve all those global problems. So economy will always remain a part of everything. The idea is how you socially engineer it for the benefit of the entire planet. That's what. Thank you.
Ms. Rao, I have a question for you. How are the issues of social inequalities evolving over the coming years?
It is overcoming. I would see parents being more aware to begin with, the environment in school being more open and encouraging for kids and students. They're organizing different camps. There are a lot of internships happening, as ma'am rightly mentioned, that you can be a part of ITER if you are interested. It's all about your interest. So you have to yourself motivate, understand what you like, what you love, and then you can pave your way wherever you want to. And as far as industries are concerned, yes, there have been changes. Times are changing, flexibility is increasing day by day. And that's where, more women as well as men are also equally, happy about it. So nowadays, if you ask a man or a woman, what do you prefer, working from home or an office? Obviously, a hybrid model works better for everyone. So that's the answer I would like to say. And yes, over the period of time, you yourself will feel what right fits to you. And it's not that one thing what you have learned will not be applicable at other place. Everything would be applicable just at the right place.
Thank you.
As Sohana said, we all can go on and on with the questions. However, time being a limitation, we would now like to conclude this discussion. On behalf of the Shiv Nadar Foundation, okay, there's one more question. We'll take that first.
Hello. Okay, so my question was, we are talking about these stereotypes like men and women, science and arts. So my question is that how are they affecting us? How are the stereotypes affecting the growth of the planet Earth and the scientists?
I would like to answer this. So to be very honest, I work with people of same grade, I would say. So out of 12, there are just 2 women in my organization who are at a managerial level. I think giving an opportunity or placing a role models as women in the organization helps. I had a very good opportunity to work with one of the industry experts. She was my boss in my previous organization, and yes, and she gave me an advice like, girls are no less than boys. So the thing that is inscribed from initially that girls are not good in maths or boys are good in maths. So it's not like that. You have to decide what you like. That is important. And I think stereotype, yes, it does affect at some point of time when you're not given equal opportunities, you're not given right wages as compared to men. So that is slowly changing, and I think it's changing for good.
It's very slowly changing, the gender gap. It is improving, but they say that it's going to take almost 100 years if we keep going at this rate for it to be closed. I also just wanted to say about being creative and having your own way that you want to live. And if you do have children and a partner, that you can be creative and talk about what you want and what your partner wants. My husband actually raised our 3 kids a lot on his own because I really loved my job and I traveled all the time. And he, at a certain point, said, when the 3rd one came, he said, well, I really like staying at home with the kids. I know that's kind of strange. And I said, it's not strange. It's strange that I want to travel all over and not be with the kids all the time. And we had to, a lot of people had questions and criticism. But we were happy with it, and it then created role models for my children who saw a mother who was working full-time and a father who was staying at home. And so I would really encourage people to find creative solutions that suit yourselves and not think about the criticism or the social constructs. I know that's difficult in reality, but it is possible.
Thank you, my dear. So what I was saying is that the stereotypes not just affect the economic and the other areas, it also affects the well-being. Like Dr. Shalini said earlier, that the well-being is very important. So if we put ourselves in boxes of genders and the stereotypes, I think the social, emotional well-being also gets affected. So I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You know, to answer that, I thought I would mention a funny anecdote. I have many such stories. But the stereotype, most of these biases, particularly in a society like India, we accept them. We do not even realize that there is a problem with these biases. When I became chair of selection committees, I mean, to tell you at the highest level, when you are hiring university faculty, a woman walks in. I was in Delhi, and she was from Bombay, let's say. And my panelists, I've told them many a times, just judge on academic merit, don't ask personal questions. But this guy goes on to say that, so what does your husband do? Is he going to shift to Delhi? And all kinds of questions. I couldn't control it. So next time a guy walks in, and he knew me, he thought I had gone crazy. So I asked him, what does your wife do? He was from Calcutta. I said, is she going to shift from Calcutta to Delhi? And he was looking at me like, what is wrong with you? But I was doing it. To prove to my co-interviewers that this is out of your code of conduct. But there is nothing written, even in a central university, as a code of conduct, that these are the questions that you can ask, these are the questions. It's an HR issue. It's not your issue, really. HR will deal with this when that comes. Your job is to select based on merit. But, you know, these questions everybody else thought were normal. Why am I getting irritated by these kind of questions? So you accept it. Of course, you would be asked, because, oh, I'll lose that position. She would not join because her husband would not move. And therefore, I better list the second one, give preference, all kinds of things. So how does it matter? You look at the two CVs, one of a woman and one of a man, they look similar to me by my professional judgment. My colleagues would say, oh, about the boy, he's a genius. You know, he's done fantastic work and all of it. And for the girl, they would say she's very hardworking. You know, she has, when I probe, then she worked with a great supervisor. Implication is clear. So I would say that even the boy had a Nobel laureate supervisor, but, you know, he's a genius, did this. People don't even realize it. You know, you assume the girl is hardworking and the boy is a genius for the same kind of output that I'm looking at in a professional career. So I think this is stereotype casting. Really, this is the stereotype ways of thinking, the way we are conditioned. And I think more and more people would actually point it out to say, this is what you're doing. Suppose I blank out the name and I don't tell you whose CV it is. Can you actually tell me which one is a better CV? And I think we started doing it. It's slow in India. Nobody accepts what I want to do. It's very, very slow in India because the competition is harsh and you look at many factors which are not necessarily merit. So this is how stereotype, you're basically losing your best candidate. Idea of a selection committee is select the best people, not the best men and the next best men and the next best men. You are losing out in an economic competition if you don't choose the best people. And I think that's what the stereotypes don't recognize that they're doing. And I think we should be just aware of that. Thanks. I thought I would end with a nice story.
I'm sure we can go on and on with things to add on and with our questions, but time is our limitation today. So we would like to end this discussion. On behalf of the entire Shiv Nadar School Foundation, I would like to thank our panelists for their insightful thoughts and their time. And I'm sure each one of us is taking something back with us today. Thank you.
The event concludes tomorrow at the Shiv Nadar School, Noida campus, and we cordially invite everyone present here to it. We now invite our panelists and esteemed guests to proceed to the ground floor for a coffee break.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the next session will be starting at 11:30.
11:30.
Hanji. No problem, sir.
We are finishing by nuclear technologies among the general public and encourage Indian youth to learn and contribute to the Indian nuclear program. Their organization is committed to ensure that the information about the benefits of nuclear technology should reach each one of us. However, with nuclear energy being a part of the solution to fight climate change, this organization has evolved as the platform to discuss renewable energy resources as well.
Developing sustainable living is everyone's right. Clean environment, healthy life, and basic amenities are a few things each one of us are striving for. In order to achieve this for all humans of this planet, the United Nations came up with 17 such goals that by achieving them, we could make every life better and make this planet sustainable. All these goals are interconnected and have overlaps. One of them is quality education. This boot camp will be focused on delivering the quality education in a modern and innovative manner. We welcome the presence of Samya Gantayat, Six Sigma Green Belt certified engineer with masters in nuclear science and technology and an abiding passion for simulations and nuclear engineering. Our esteemed resource person, Mr. Ganesh, a postgraduate engineer and currently working as a scientific officer in BARC. His main areas of work are related to design and develop first-of-a-kind equipment which find applications in the domain of nuclear and solar energy. Please welcome both of our guests with a sustained round of applause.
छोड़ना ठीक है को बोल दो अनाउंस कर दो तो ये अनाउंस करना let it be I'll take this let it photo guys, due to some we'll have the ice team against the climate change lecture first, and then we'll go for clean technologies. So ice team lecture will be presented by Dr. Nitin Singh.
Hello again. The idea of ICE team and its role against fighting climate change. First of all, what is ICE team? ICE team is basically standing for innovation, mainly in science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. It's not a new concept. It's a very old concept. We eventually went out, but now we are trying to come back to this. And that's where we are focusing on today. So this is ICE team. What is climate? You have heard both the terms, the weather and climate. You might have also read about it. But there is a very fine difference between the two. And it is basically the time. Every change which you see in your day-to-day, second to second, minute to minute, hourly changes in your temperature, in your humidity, in your air pressure, everything. This is known as weather condition, changes in real time or short time in your atmosphere, which is affecting you, is basically weather. But when you integrate over it for a long time, that means when you take this data for over the years, at least 30 years, we say, then it becomes climate. So it's basically weather is something you see or you witness the change every now and then. Climate you can witness over a longer period of time. What is the concern if this climate change? And when I say climate change, that means when the time there was a hot ball of planet, this Earth was, then it became, for example, the ice ball and things like that. So over the billions and millions of years, the climate has been changing. But considering the modern time we are living in and few hundred thousands years, if you see those changes, those changes are basically called as climate change mainly. Climate change could seem fatal, could seem really bad. It may have different effects on our lives, and few of them I have listed here. So basically when we talk about climate change, that means we are talking about change in composition of our atmosphere, which is kind of protective covering of our planet. Basically, it is responsible for the life we are having on our planet. So if we change the composition, definitely there will be some changes which will take place. In our atmosphere, there are different type of gases, but imagine the specific gases which we call as greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide, methane, and things like that. If they increase in quantity in that atmosphere, then you will retain more heat in your atmosphere. The average temperature of this planet will increase, and that will basically affect everything. If you notice the news recently, you might be hearing there is a wildfire somewhere in Spain, another wildfire in Greece, in southern part of Uttarakhand and things like that. They all are increasing because of this variation in temperatures. And similarly, you have also heard the scarcity of water, the reducing the level of drinking water in the ground and things like that. And you have also heard that there is an increase in frequency in tornadoes in the US, in other regions. And all of it is happening because of this change in amount of greenhouse gases we are talking about. And that's basically the definition of climate change. We need to understand this why and how it is affecting. So if you see as a whole the planet Earth, it's a ball of where we are living on top of it. And over that, we have a cover of atmosphere, which is a closed system. When we talk about closed system, you know, if we bring some change in one part of this closed system, you will feel the effect of this in other part of the system. So in this spherical kind of ball, if you increase the temperature in one part, there will definitely be effect in other part. And that's what is happening now. If you consider the 1900s was the era of industrialization where we actually started putting more carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases into our environment or in atmosphere, since then the level of greenhouse gases has increased severely. And that's what is making it happen, that all those frequency of severe weather condition is taking place every now and then. The durations of seasons have varied. Now you have more prolonged summer, but sharp peak winters. All the time, it's changing pattern in the rainfall, and all of it is happening. But the question is, for you and for all of us, could we actually measure this? Or it's some scientists who are making fun of us or who are making fool of us? Do you really think, can you measure it in your own terms, in your own day-to-day life? Because we are talking about climate in a period of 30 years, for example, or can you contribute to this measurement? Yes, no, anyone? No? I'll give you an example. How can we do that? So I am proposing 3 activities to all of you. All the teachers, all the students, all of you in your day-to-day life, which you can conduct. I call it data type 1. The data type 1 is when you discuss with your elderly, your grandma, your grandparents, your parents, and all those people who have already spent a lot of life. They have seen the changes and variation in their life. You can sit with them. You can ask simple question, one question, that what was the average temperature in the month of Jan, Feb, March, up to December, when they were young. And you notify this data, you keep record of it, different people, different places, and all the year-round temperature measurement. And you will probably get the answers like, yeah, it used to be 30 degrees maximum in April, 35 in May, and things like that. So you will have a good data, but it will have more of error because it is more or less what they remember, what they felt on the basis of this. But it is a good exercise to begin with, to understand and have a feel of real change in numbers in terms of everyday temperature you feel in weather. So this is one exercise you have to perform. Second one, which is more interesting and more scientific, whenever you fly, if you notice, whenever your plane starts to descend or take off, there is a change in temperature with altitude. When you go up, the temperature reduces. When you go down, or when you are landing, the temperature increases. And the aircraft has sensors to measure it, and all of these sensor measurements are displayed on your screen. In some cases, it is not displayed. In some cases, it is displayed, but measurements are done. You can actually record this as well. Whenever you are flying, wherever you are flying, whether you are taking off or landing, you note this data. The place, the time, and in case it is not displayed, you can ask the crew member to give this data to you. You can do that. When you do that, you are making more precise measurements compared to the grandma story because it is basically being measured. And all those sensors are basically well calibrated, so the error margin is pretty low. So you are actually measuring really close data. With all of you, with people moving different places, you can really gather a good database of it. And then you can keep this information in a fashion like this with respect to places you have, with respect to height you have, and you can create this your own data. And let me assure you, when you do this exercise for a couple of months, you will realize there is a change in pattern. When you do it for a couple of years, you will see that there is a definite change in pattern. So this is a good exercise you can do in your own class, in your own entire school, and you can, do it with your family members or the way you feel like. However, again, this data may not be accurate enough. You need to make some changes. For example, the consideration of season, consideration of day and night, consideration of latitude as well. So if you make those changes, the data become more precise, more interesting, and it will give you more information. But why we need this data? What it has to do with ice stream? Basically, when I mentioned, iSTEAM is nothing but your science, tech, engineering, maths, arts. All of it are being affected by this data. I'll give you an example. How many of you know all three of them? Nice. How many of you know the middle one? Cool. Perfect. And how many of you know the first one? Perfect. Very nice. So you see, this is an example of iSTEAM. When these objects were designed, when these objects were fabricated and created, they were not created for the purpose of tourism, okay? Not for the photography. They had their own purpose. For example, the Eiffel Tower was a radio tower. It was not that you go there and get your picture clicked. Likewise, if you see Airbus 380, it is one of the biggest plane we have. It was not created for just to make a world record or something. It was created for the proper transportation, mass transportation from one place to another at a faster rate. So all of these are being created using the same concepts, but the effect of weather, effect of climate is always there. The idea of iSTEAM working together is that you minimize those effects on your design, on your applications in such a manner that they solve the problem for the climate change. I'll give you one more example. How many of you know this structure? Perfect. Do you know the biggest problem these days have for the carbon emission is the concrete. Concrete is one of the major sources of carbon emission. And more we are growing, more infrastructure is growing, more population is growing, we need more houses, more buildings, so more concrete. So how we can solve this problem? And there is a definite life of this concrete, so we need to replace it again. But if you see the particular structure, it was designed by Romans, and if you study the Roman concrete is very special because they have the concept of self-healing. That means the Roman concrete was designed in such a manner that if there was a crack in that concrete, with time, it will eventually heal it up. So this is one of the perfect example of iSTEAM. You created an artistic structure, which was really nice in terms of engineering because of safety reasons. It was designed in such a manner that a mass of people can be evacuated in really unwanted situation to evacuate people quickly. It was designed with marble to look really beautiful, picturesque, and you used your knowledge of precise chemistry and metallurgy in designing such a material which can withstand the harsh effect of climate as well. And if you see the geography of Rome, it's really hot like here in India. So, you can combine your knowledge of iSTEAM to come up with such solutions. There's another problem we have, especially in our country, the drinking water. Can you imagine something where we can use a natural system which can clean our water bodies or can desaline the seawater naturally? This is one of the challenge. If we could achieve this, it will really help us in solving our drinking water problem globally. And one of the examples are bioorganisms. There are some sort of algae which basically cleans your water, and together with that, it absorbs the carbon from your environment. So, you're having dual function. You're cleaning not only the water, but the air as well, which is air pollution and water pollution is one of the biggest problem in major cities across the globe. So you can think of that as well. This is also a big example of ice stream, not related to particular field of something. One more example I would like to bring, the energy. It is also an interdisciplinary field. All of you have already seen about what is nuclear fusion, what is nuclear fission. We have different sources of renewable energies like solar, wind, or you can think of any other sources as well, like geothermal, tidal waves, or any other innovative solution as well. But there are challenges, there are limitations which are limiting us to actually harness the full potential of those sources. For example, with renewables, the major problem comes that these are intermittent sources. They can generate electricity or energy only in a different specific condition. For example, you can have solar energy only when you have a good sunlight. At night, they do nothing. Similar is with the wind power. So during night or when there is no wind, you need to store that energy. And that's where the limiting challenge is coming from renewables. So can we do something for that? For example, there have been a solution in recent years that instead of using the material-based storage system, you can have water-based storage system. For example, you can use this power to put water in a tank, and at midnight you just use the water through gravity to regenerate this power. This can be another source of storage. So this could be another example of utilizing your entire experience and knowledge integratedly in STEAM and innovate some solution to target challenges. In fission, we have different challenges of if you use the fuel only for the one time, you have a lot of nuclear waste. But if you use it for multiple times, you are recreating the fuel. Your nuclear fuel is, nuclear waste is almost negligible then. So can you have an innovative solution to figure that out? We have a really strong challenge in terms of material for fusion. When we talk about fusion, we are basically trying to create a small sun on our planet, and the temperature requirement for that to happen will be 150 million degrees Celsius. And to withstand that sort of harsh environment, along with the magnetic field, it's really challenging to have such sort of materials. Can you think of some innovative ideas or creative ideas to tackle that? All these questions actually lead to only one thing. If you think in your own areas in terms of iSTEAM together, you'll find some solutions. And that's the main idea of my talk, that you need not to take individual subject. Instead, you think collectively how to address a problem and find a solution in your own creative manner. That's all from my side for now. Thank you. If you have any questions. This one.
So, sir, my question was that, sir, can't we find any power source intergalactically?
You were asking that can we find intergalactic power source?
Yes, sir. Like, if we could harness some of the strongest powers in the universe, like gamma rays and black holes, and even, I don't know if this exists, but could we create a way to harness the entire power of a star?
I'll answer this. So the most known intergalactic power source is our sun, which is the closest one. And there have been a theoretical model, I forgot its name.
Dyson sphere.
Yeah, Dyson sphere, where we actually assume that we can harness entire power of sun. But with current understanding of materials and current knowledge of science, it seems really impossible to do so. And to give you an example, when we go a temperature and heat flux beyond 3000 degrees Celsius, it becomes really difficult for any material to sustain that for a long time. And if you see fusion only, we are talking about 150 million degrees Celsius, where the heat load is still low. On the other hand, if you talk about sun, the heat load is huge. So this is first part. Second part, what you were mentioning, that if we can harness the power using gamma rays, we can. However, the problem is gamma rays are high energy radiations, which basically have a very low interaction with material. They pass through. So if we really want to have them interact, to harness their energy, we need to really concentrate them, and then it becomes tricky to manage them for now. Yes, please.
But sir, if the gamma rays are in a huge amount, then sir, I think we could harness quite a bit of energy.
That's what I'm saying. If you have a high amount of gamma rays and if you focus them, then you cannot harness, you will penetrate the entire system. They become so energetic. And we don't have that sort of material which can actually harness that energy. Yeah, there's this guy.
My question was that can we like store or harness the power of like thunder, like lightning bolts?
Yes, there have been some experiments being done where you can actually store some part of this lightning thunder, but not all. Again, the temperature comes or the limitation comes because of temperature and material issue. What happens when we have this thunder lightning? It is basically a plasma, an open plasma, which is highly energetic plasma. And the temperature at the center line of this particular lightning is so high that when the electrodes which are used to take this power and store it, they got damaged because the power rating was so high. And some experiments are being conducted in those directions where people are trying to harness that. Second problem is that it is really difficult to predict that particular lightning, where it will fall. And if you want to harness it where it is regularly happening, it's up high in the atmosphere.
And another thing, like I thought of this idea. I thought of this idea really like really long ago, but I didn't find anything. That I thought that if we could put some kind of tech under the ground, so every time we walk on it, it applies a little bit of pressure, and then that tech can like convert that precious energy like into electric energy, so we can have like sustainable electric. So so is there any type of tech like that?
The idea is good, but the problem is coming from the pressure sensors. The pressure sensors are sensitive to where these generation are taking place. There are some piezoelectric materials where they sense the pressure and generate electricity. But the pressure you're talking about from the lightning, it's huge.
Lightning. Like if we put it under the ground
Yes, yes.
and we walk on it.
Yes, yes. This is a practical solution already being done. In many countries, you are having walkways where you find the crowded places. For example, here we have Connaught Place in Delhi, for example. If you put that sort of walkway, there are huge people influx. There it has already been done in many countries.
So, sir, can we not make the Celsius down?
Sorry.
Sir, the temperature low. Can't we make the temperature low?
I'm sorry, I don't. Temperature load you're talking?
Low.
For what? For what? No, it's a natural phenomena. So basically how lightning is being created, it is the electronic discharge which is taking place. So electrons are already high energy electrons which are coming from the cosmic rays. So we cannot slow them down.
So can we use global warming for energy? Like can we use the heat to make energy?
We are actually using heat to create electricity.
So we can use global warming for advantage.
It's again the same thing. It's a closed system. If you are having a heat at some place and you are using it to different application, overall the heat remains the same. And with continuous addition of this greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, this overall temperature is increasing. So we are not taking in a closed system, unless you remove something, it will not decrease.
And so can we put like some solar panels on the moon to get the energy from the sun?
You can do, some nations are trying that, but I don't know by when it will be successful. The problem from there is how you will transmit that energy. Right now we are using solar transmission using the wire. We transfer the electricity via wire. If we have to do it from moon, we need to think of some other sources like some waves, which still in progress.
Is there any way to create the healing bricks of the Rome's Colosseum again? And if there isn't, why don't we take out one brick and use it to get the formula of it?
You are asking for the creation of Colosseum again?
I'm saying, is there a way to recreate the bricks used to make the Colosseum, the healing bricks?
Yeah, I mean, that can be done. A lot of scientists actually studying the composition of this concrete. But the problem is, if you try to recreate it, half of the part will remain old, half of the part will be new. So they don't want to damage the structure. However, they are trying to study and recreate this concrete so that for future structures, for example, Burj Khalifa, there could be any other structure which may come in future. So they may use this sort of advanced material for that construction so that the lifetime of those structures will be much higher. Sure. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, kids, may I request you all to please settle down? Teachers, may I please request you to ensure the kids are in their seats?
So guys, you have actually, you have good idea about the technologies and the different, sources of energy, what we have been discussing here. So some of them have some ideas, some of them had the questions about. So let us try and see what the technologies are available today when we talk about green or a clean energy sources, what we basically are looking forward to a sustainable development. In this particular scenario, so, majorly I'll just try and explain, summarize what we have, done till now, or what is the main issue. So the main problem here, what we are trying or we are facing is, greenhouse gas. So can anyone, Nitendra sir has already explained how the greenhouse gas works, or what is the effect. Can anyone, tell me, can anyone repeat it? Anyone from the audience? How the greenhouse is affecting the earth? Person? वहाँ पे.
Hello?
Wait, let's. Sir, can I ask a question?
Yeah. Just a second. Let the person answer first, and then we can go for the question also. Yes.
Sir, greenhouse gases are gases that are present in our atmosphere that can trap the heat from the sun which is received in the earth. So the actual natural function of these gases was to trap the heat from the sun which the earth got in the morning and to keep it in the night. Store it in the night so that the other part of the planet doesn't freeze at night. But sir, since the global warming is increasing and sir, more greenhouse gases are being produced than needed, sir, overheating is happening of the planet.
Okay. More or less.
That's why, sir, even at night we feel very hot.
So more or less, yes, you are on the right track. What happens is there are certain gases like carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, carbon monoxide. These have a tendency to entrap or trap some of the heat which is coming from the sun. And, see, basically the radiations or the heat is coming to the earth and coming to the earth from the sun. These can be assumed as the gas particles. So the radiations which have been entrapped tend to increase the amount of heat which is there in our different atmosphere, and then what the end result is rising in the temperature as well as the concentration of carbon dioxide or the greenhouse gases. So similarly, that is what we are looking forward. So when if you want to summarize, so what is happening is with time, as you can see, the temperature with the year, greenhouse gases are increasing in concentration, and thus the entrapment of the heat is also increasing, which is leading to the rise in temperatures globally, which can be seen here. So the temperature is rising, and by what we are assuming, like by 2020, now the temperature has driven more, increased by 0.6 or 0.8 degrees currently, but by mid-century we are expecting it to rise by 1.6 to 1.8 degrees Celsius, and that is what is.
Okay.
If it was, if only solar could have solved our problems, we've done this transition very easily. That is what I'll go explain in the next slides. So let's look at the options first. What are the green? And I'll explain challenges with every energy sources. And let's see what can be done. So solar energy. Everybody knows solar energy, right? How are we harnessing it?
Hello.
Solar panels, correct. There is, what are the different ways are we using solar? One, solar panels are creating electricity. Other ways, other options? Solar cells, again, they also create the same. Yes. Yes. Just a second. Just a second. Yeah.
And at that point, sir, the water is in a tank. The tank gets really hot. The water becomes steam, starts boiling.
Yes.
Then it rises, powers a fan, which powers a dynamo, and boom.
That's
energy.
one part. Second. Yeah. It takes 3 seconds. Just.
15, 10 minutes.
Exactly. The one uses electricity, the other one is heating. Third, again. Yes, that is an induced.
Wind energy is due to
Windmill is
solar
an induced
energy.
part. Correct.
Sir, there is also a rock named uranium that produces power up to 3000 coals. So why don't we use that as a power source?
Rock name?
Uranium.
Uranium. I'll come back to you with another energy source.
Sir,
We'll discuss it down the line.
Sir, water is also used as a electricity producer. So I also have a question.
Yes.
Sir, the vibration of the earthquakes on Earth, why don't we use that vibration for energy purposes?
First of all, that is we can use, but then how do you know that the earthquake will happen at a certain point?
So, like the forecast.
Forecast is a way of predicting it, but then a definitive way where we can find is a bit dicey situation.
Sir, what about other
That is
natural
what we are
disasters?
trying to harness. That is what we are trying to harness. But then the technology for that is particularly not available currently. A forecast is just a prediction or a probability, not an assurance that a particular earthquake will happen. So depending upon that.
Sir, what about other natural disasters?
Sorry?
Other natural disasters.
Other natural disasters. It follows the same way. Natural disasters are something what we predict. And that prediction, having it predicted accurately can solve. Somehow we are trying to, for example, we are also harnessing tidal energy. And if you have a tsunami or also you'll have a higher energy. But the probability is also low and the effect, the occurrences is also low. Consider this way.
So, what about if we fix an instrument in the clouds somehow?
Yes.
Then we will not, sir, can we then harness the powers of the electricity bolt or the lightning?
You answered your question yourself. Somehow. So when we don't know how, then that is why the technology lacks, and putting it there somehow word will not give us a technology, my dear. That is why we are trying to figure it out in the same manner. If it converting into technology. Yes.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, how is solar panel made?
Solar panels are basically made using silicon, aluminium and other parts. What happens is they are the ones who absorb your UV radiations and then convert it into a smaller electric pulses, and that is down the line amplified into a solar energy. For water heating, what happens is basically you can have a dish which is targeted onto one particular level. So that the heat, what is coming from the solar, there are two ways. I mean, solar mirrors kind of stuff. Have you ever also heard for solar cookers also? So what they work on the similar principle where the light is being basically focused on one particular point. That means the heat and at that particular point, the heat energy is increasing and it's been heating the water similarly. Yes.
Hello.
So we have talked about solar. These are the technologies what we talked about, right? But then
Hello.
what are the limitations?
Hello.
What are the limitations? Can anyone tell me what limitations does solar have? Can you stand up on your place so that volunteers will get you much easily? Please hand him over a mic, please. Yeah. What are the limitations of the solar?
Yeah, sir, like with solar energy at night, we cannot harness.
Okay.
And like we can only harness at flat places where like most of the times of the day there's the
Okay.
sunlight.
That's one. Another?
So there's also a type of electricity called piezoelectric flooring.
Yes.
It's the thing that ignites lighters. So could we place that under crowded stations like metro stations?
Yes.
And that could
The
increase.
piezoelectric effect, that is what the similar one, the question asked in the Nitendra sir's lecture. That works on the pressure, and that is the similar, it is placed down and it converted. So that is already a technology available in the few crowded areas.
Sir, I
But-
have one more.
Yeah.
So, sir, my point about solar energy is that they use something called solar panels, which are made of photovoltaic cells.
Yes.
And, sir, these are actually very expensive to make.
Yes.
So, sir, many people can't afford this. So, sir, basically, this is also one limitation.
That is another point, yes. That is a disadvantage for the solar which we are facing today. The panels which we make are a bit costlier, and also the solar has a third biggest problem what India is currently facing is that the land required for the solar is quite high. The requirement, if more or less it's a thumb rule can be said that 1 megawatt requires almost 5 acres of land. So if you want to power a country like India, I think almost all India needs to be the land needs to be converted into solar panels just to power those stuff. That is why we have a limited resource in terms of solar what we are looking for. And also looking at the geography of India, there are times where in the southern side or in rainy season the sun does not have that much amount of intensity where it can harness a particular amount of energy for a longer period. So during those particular times, the solar, the intermittency, what the word which you use, that is very low. Thus, the solar has its limitations. Else, also, if the solar, on an average, we say that solar is only available 8 hours a day. So for the rest 16 hours, you have to have a battery backup. And batteries increase the cost and your e-waste as well. Down the line, for a longer period of time, this both pose a very difficult challenge. So while we are trying to say that we are going towards a greener energy, we are again harming the system. We are using batteries and the down after some particular years.
Sir,
Yes.
I had a question.
Yes.
That the evaporation method, why does not it happens in the ocean?
Which method?
Evaporation.
I'm not sure about that. Alex. So yes, similarly again, I guess there's one more question down there. You can stand on your place so that you'll be noticeable easily. Down 3, yes.
What can we use besides solar energy?
What kind of?
What can we use besides solar energy that is affordable?
There are many options, but then currently the prominent ones, if you keep the coal aside, is currently looking as a nuclear energy, nuclear fission energy, since the technology is developed. And there is along with the solar energy, I'll just explain you a smaller concept called base load. What happens is, since we can see the electricity is there for the continuous time, a reactor or an energy providing source should always work 24/7 and for a longer period of time. But the renewables have an intermittency, like solar can only be available for 8 hours a day. Wind requires a certain amount of wind, particularly renewables have their own limitations. But if we are using nuclear energy, where one of your friend currently said that there is a rock called uranium, that is particularly the fuel for nuclear fission. And that is what we are using in the nuclear fission reactors, and that can provide you a continuous source of energy which was provided by coal. So effectively, if you want to replace coal, nuclear currently seems to be a better option, and also a cost effective option. Similarly, we have discussed others. Yes, there's one more question. Volunteers, please pass the mic.
Sir, how is wind and solar energy renewable if they use so many things that, sir, all the elements that are being used and they can't be disposed of properly. So sir, how is it eco-friendly?
See, ideally the energy source is renewable because solar is not going to the apparatus, the auxiliary which is required along with that emits that emits greenhouse gases. For example, that is that is what currently the challenge we are facing is like, even though we call them as green energy, are they really green? For example, solar energy is available, but then to build solar panel, we require certain amount of energy. We require certain amount of fabrication. Silicon is to be extracted, molded into a particular shape. A panel is to be made. Steel has to be melted. That particular energy is also emits carbon dioxide in that particular process. So the so-called green energies have carbon emissions while utilizing them and not in the ideal or the methodology in which they proceed. So green energy in the method they have, but then not in the actual implementation.
Sir, I have a question about how does the wind energy exactly works?
Wind energy directly work?
Exactly works.
Exactly work. Okay. See, what happens is whenever the wind is flowing, there are wind blades which is attached, and that blades rotate. When these blades are rotating after a particular threshold energy, these blades are actually connected to the rotor, and a generator system is being kept beside. So when the rotor is being moving, the poles of basically generator has the magnetic poles, and as the polarity changes, a small magnetic field is being induced, and that field creates a current that is changed, and thus the electricity is produced from that. So so basically you are aware of this. So here's what I'll address the question by your friend, what is a uranium rock? So those particular uranium is basically the fuel for nuclear fission reaction. What happens is uranium is basically a heavy atom. After hitting with a smaller neutron, it splits into two, giving out a huge amount of energy. That is what is happening in nuclear fission. Fission is basically breaking. So that is the uranium atom breaks into two. So that there are also limitations to particularly that. There is an isotope called uranium-235, which breaks and splits. Which splits into the different fission products and gives us the energy. So this particular kind of energy is being harnessed, and we are currently we have nuclear reactors, many nuclear reactors working in India as of today. The other part or the other energy which we are looking for, as in the last lecture we saw, was basically harnessing the energy from fusion. Fusion is basically fusing of two smaller materials to form a heavy element, and that releases energy. That particular format is also producing energy where a plasma has been required. But this technology is in experimental stage. So the complete technology has to be developed. We do have an option, we do have in theory, but it needs to be developed. So and now currently the other topic is bioenergy. So can anyone tell me what bioenergy is? Bioenergy, can anyone tell me? I guess there is one who wants to answer for the bio.
Sir, bioenergy are fuels and energy sources derived from natural materials.
Derived from?
Natural materials.
Natural materials. In general, which materials can you explain?
All materials are natural, but you won't exactly call coal bioenergy, but usually bioenergy refers to trees.
See, generally what we refer to here are the hydrocarbons like oils, solid waste, agricultural waste products. Also, we are harnessing from that particular ones. Most of us might have heard that India has blending ethanol. That is also a type of hydrocarbon which is being used or mixed with the diesel or having a flex fuel currently. So these kind of energy, so these kind of or raw material for bioenergy is generally the waste product from the agricultural land or vegetable oils. So when you are using the hydrocarbons or the naturally available material and burn it, there is no extra release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and thus this is one of the green energy sources. So that is why these are the different bioenergies also we are using it. So then, and the last leap, yes.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Sir, I know there is like hydrogen fuel cells, but how do they really work? Like I first know that we create hydrogen from the process of electrolysis.
Yes.
But there are many types of hydrogen, like gray hydrogen and blue hydrogen.
Yes.
Sir, I'm asking, once we create the blue hydrogen, how do we create electricity and fuel from that?
How do you create electricity and fuel?
Fuel from that.
Yeah. So first of all, see, blue hydrogen and green hydrogen, there is no difference in the hydrogen. The blue, green and gray is where the difference lies in the process of making the hydrogen. So particularly that being clear, what happens is hydrogen can be combusted similarly, in a combustion chamber. If that is used in your vehicle, so what will be hydrogen plus oxygen? What it will give you? Water. And that is so, and with a higher amount of energy. That energy is being used to drive your vehicle, and as a byproduct, you will get a water which is not this thing. And as for the fuel, this is for the fuel. The other purposes, similarly, the energy which is liberated is again in the form of heat. So when you're using industry in the industrial applications where heating and other part is required, that heat is being utilized, and as a byproduct, you're getting water which is not environmentally harmful. Yes, hydrogen is flammable. That creates a problem for the storing it, or the technology has so storage needs to be again we have a technology, but that needs to be enhanced and developed much more further for the public domain. But that combustion is giving you the energy. That is why we are using it as a product, as a fuel. Also, this combustion does not give you create any greenhouse gas. That is which comes, and the density for the fuel in the hydrogen is very high. For example, you can drive a car by using electricity. But if you want to drive a haulage vehicle, that is trailers and heavy duty vehicles where you can transport a huge amount or a huge masses, their electricity cannot be the density for the electricity is less than the hydrogen. So that much amount of weight or mass cannot be transferred into that falls short for transporting these vehicles. That is why we need to require a high density fuel, which is hydrogen. Yes, there's one more question, I think. Okay, so let us see. Yeah.
So, we can use uncharged particles to capture the cosmic rays. So the uncharged particles will cool down the cosmic rays, and the solar panel could absorb their energy, so control the lightning power.
That is currently, that is that can be an ideal stage or an idea concept, but that has different limitations. Charge and converting them in a particular amount of energy doesn't mean that you are also losing some of your energy to convert your charge to uncharged particles to charged particles. And if that is possible, then why do we need to if that is the case, then uncharged particles, when converted to charged particles, can easily be transported from one electrode to other, directly giving you electricity. That is what we are trying, that is what the experiments are harnessing. But the temperature, as the movement increases, as the temperature increases, the vibrations are higher. The materials currently what we are using is unable to sustain that. So like when you are saying charged and uncharged particles, but they belong to certain kind of material which we are using to. And that material is currently that material is unable to handle such higher potential as well as the heat energy there. And that is the reason why we are unable to harness it to a complete potential. So, moving towards the last part, what we are trying to say is we are looking towards a net zero scenario. Can anyone explain what the net zero is? I guess we'll give here a chance now. Okay.
So net zero is basically that. Net zero is basically that in the whole Earth there is no greenhouse gases, no greenhouse emissions. Like that net zero is that concept.
No. Okay, that is partly wrong, but then I'll explain. You can, you want to answer, right? You try to explain what is net zero.
Net zero scenario is like when the greenhouse gases which right now are produced, they drastically go down. Like when the coal emission won't happen, this greenhouse gases will go down, and eventually it is going to help us in the net zero scenario.
What you just described is carbon capture or a greenhouse gas capture. Net zero particularly is a scenario where we are basically the amount of greenhouse gas which we are emitting into the atmosphere, the same amount we are removing it as well simultaneously. That means whatever we are adding, we are again subtracting same amount. So the net accumulation of greenhouse gas into the atmosphere is zero. That is why it is called net zero. It doesn't mean that we are also, we are completely zeroing it down. Emissions cannot be done completely zero because there are applications, there are limitations that emissions will be there. But whatever emissions we are doing, the equal amount or the same amount of emissions are being taken away from the atmosphere as well. Those are also captured. That is why the net result or the net balance of what we are talking is zero. And thus the scenario is net zero. So the amount which you are liberating is again captured and the total balance sheet is zero. So the other part is sector-wise decarbonization. So what are the different options which we have in different particular sectors? So transport sectors, if you look, we are looking towards different kind of fuels like biofuels, electric vehicles or hydrogen fuel cells. So everybody is knowing that about. Similarly, we are looking for mining industries as well. Mining is a very energy intensive industry. You have to mine, you mine for different material, ores, have different material, excavators, drilling, having those. So those energy particularly require again a decarbonization of that particular sector. So how can that be done? So wherever there are materials or machineries require, we are giving them the alternate fuel. Like if the diesel generated fuels are being required, we'll be switching them to diesel fuels, biodiesel fuels basically. Biodiesel fuel. Similarly, the energy which is initial energy which is required, that we are ensuring that should come from a green source like renewable or nuclear in particularly. So similarly for steel industry, steel and cement industry pose a two-point challenge. One is where the steel industry requires high temperature for melting and extractions. So providing for currently what we are using is fossil fuels like coal. We are burning coal to produce heat, and that heat is being used in this industry. So rather than this, what we are looking forward is to the having as a hydrogen as a fuel. Like we'll combust hydrogen, have a high energy, and then we'll be definitely been able to harness that amount of heat. And also in chemical reactions, we'll be rather than using coal or any fossil fuel based, we'll be using another different subordinate chemical which does not emit carbon or carbon related emissions. So in buildings and infrastructure, currently we use CNG and all. So rather than that, if we are using electric inductions, inductions for preparations and the electricity from which is coming from green energy, we will be able to decarbonize this particular sector. And the chemical industry. This is one industry which is basically hard to abate, but since the chemical reactions might not change, the energy required for these chemical reactions to happen can come from a greener sources. So all in all, what we need to do is for the energy requirements needs to be coming from a greener source, and again that has to be come that in creation of this particular energy also the CO2 should not, we have to take care that there is minimum CO2 emissions. So for the questions or for here I would like to ask you one particular question. Whenever say how green is green energy, that means what we talked about before was, though solar is a green, but then a requirement of a solar panel, solar instruments or the and other auxiliary systems are basically emit CO2. So in looking to the overall picture of the life cycle of a particular energy, we emit some amount of CO2 in that, and the reduction of that also is a primary option. Yes, any questions for that? Yeah.
Hi, sir. My question was that, like hydroelectricity, there is a wheel that it makes go around and then it in turn produces electricity. So, like that, can we also make a machine that does the same job and is powered by anything else, and then it can produce more electricity through that?
See, producing more, see the source, what you are saying is the same, right? You're using hydro, water to move. And in a closed system, there are some losses. So the amount of energy what water already has will actually, when you convert into another energy source or another energy form, it will always be less than the previous one. Only the efficiency of the conversion can be increased, not the methodology there.
I have a question. Can we use the nuclear waste produced from the nations to power stuff?
Yes, nuclear products, I mean the spent fuel, what is generally termed as nuclear waste, or the after this, when once through after the nuclear fuels is being used, that has different applications in different sectors. For example, cobalt-60 is a radioactive source which is many times used in cancer treatment. There are technetium molybdenum generators which are also used for cancer detection, diagnosis, and treatment as well. Another part is there are many tire wire industries which are which have irradiation with them to have robust properties of the rubber which they particularly they use, or the property like they don't have a meltdown at the higher temperatures as well. So for these treatments, the sources like cobalt-60 or the gamma cesium-137, which is mostly found in the spent fuel of the nuclear reactors, are being extracted and concentrated and then used for the different application. This in turn reduces the amount of nuclear as what we can call as waste. So the waste which is being produced from the nuclear is very less in amount.
So,
Yes.
I wanted to ask that earlier you said that in solar energy it focuses at one point, and so I wanted to ask, sir, that is the energy limited or is it finite?
The energy is limited because see the rays which are coming down to you is a limited source. That is why focusing onto a point is also limited, and the temperature it can rise is limited by the incidence of radiations. Thus, we have a limited part there.
And sir, I wanted to ask me like about magnetic energy, that is there a stronger magnetic energy than Earth's North Pole?
Stronger energy at Earth's North Pole. That I think cannot be harnessed, not harnessable enough.
Thank you so much, students, for showing your enthusiasm and all these questions. So, okay. Okay, a moment, please. One moment, please. For the paucity of time, we may not be able to take more questions over here, but I'm sure all of you are very enthusiastic. Please pass on the questions to your science teachers, and we will try to get those answers. I'm sure there are many, many more questions coming to your minds, and we, your, your science teachers will be able to either answer those or get those responses and try to provide you the answers. Students, please settle down for a moment. That's not how we close the session, right? Please settle down for a moment. So we'll just hold on for the conclusion and then we can all disperse. Thank you so much for your patience. We'll conclude in a moment and then we'll disperse.
So guys, this brings us to the closing for the day one of the educational boot camp here, and I am really thankful for you being so much supportive and all. But I insist that the day two is coming tomorrow. Please join us, and it is also live stream on YouTube. I'll request you to be a part of it as well. And so for now, I announce that the closure of the day one here. Thank you very much.
Grade 6 and 7, please disperse from the right ramp, and grade 8 from the left one.